time around, they banned the Rumble in this slot, so they're okay giving away Rumble. With the Poppy ban, I'm kind of curious what answers they have. This tells me that they might be looking for maybe a late rotation Alistar or a jungler that Poppy can beat up on early on. So curious if we see those cards from JDG now.
Xiaoxu could opt for a tank like the Ornn or the Scion, or could go for a more skill-oriented matchup against Bin. Definitely had a tough time in the early game against the BLG top laner, but ended up providing value by the end of things. We saw him forcing summoner spells, able to issue a couple of kills by the end of that game. So on the Ambessa, another ability to dive onto any potential backline that exists.
Might be fishing, but do we see maybe an early Kiana? I'm just thinking of junglers that don't want to see Poppy on their screen. As okay, we see a Nocturne picked up. I like Nocturne in the Rumble. I think Rumble's a pick that you can punish in the side lanes, and Nocturne, that's where he's best. So Ambessa plus Nocturne, the ability to hunt Rumble in the side lanes will be very real for JDG as this game moves forward. Yeah, this is part of why I was...
You were saying Kiana.
I was, because, again, it has been a big pick for Shun, and it does pair well with Rumble if you just drop the Rs. But going to go for the Wukong, so a little bit more scaling out of the jungle, but should have some winning lanes to try and support it, as Rumble will have that priority early on top. Aurora being snagged this early, though, is a little bit of a surprise, because with Ambessa plus Nocturne, Aurora is a very real matchup in a Rumble that is tough for Rumble to deal with, so can understand the deny, but this is really setting up HongQ to take something like a Syndra or a Victor or a Galio to, again, you can continue that dive identity, and I feel like BLG kind of dug themselves a hole already in this draft, because this is a very happy draft for Galio. There's a very sound dive identity already showing for JDG, one that BLG might have issues with.
Yeah, you pick a self-sufficient bot lane for JDG, and all of a sudden, a very dangerous composition, and more semi-global ultimates here for JunJia and HongQ as well. Going to be able to get all across the map as easy as they please as we enter the second phase of picks and bans. Bot lanes, next on the target.
Ban Gala Kai'Sa. I think we should pay some respect to Gala Kai'Sa. Should probably just get that out of the pool as BLG. I like the Renata ban. You're going to deny Kalista Renata. Renata has a couple other pairings that could be used by On and BLG. I really want to see a Kai'Sa ban in these two. I'm tunneling on that, Grapes. If I don't see a Kai'Sa ban, you better have a game plan into it, is what I'm saying for BLG.
Yeah, maybe they're thinking we can force them, bait them into 5 dive, and then play something that would do good into it. But in terms of things that would do good into it, one of the things that immediately comes to mind is the Renata. That was banned away by JDG, so definitely asking for trouble if they are willing to give one of Gala's most played, most notorious champions over with a composition that already enjoys the likes of it.
What doesn't like seeing Renata Rakan that Vampire might want to play? I think Alistar could be a big takeaway. Like, there's a bit of I think the setup for Aurora plus Rumble, like if I'm On, I probably want to play a very big CC champion coming in here. I think if you pick Alistar now, you're probably asking to get barded by On, which is his most played so far this year. But I could see a world where signing up for that is maybe something that JDG values, because they just don't want to give away Alistar to Rumble plus Aurora and a combo off the Wukong. But yeah, no Kai'Sa ban. Kai'Sa picked up for Gala. Gala is the Kai'Sa player in the Kai'Sa region for the LPL, and I think that giving this away, frankly, when Kai'Sa got through the draft at this point, I kind of expected to see it, so what kind of plan do you have for BLG? Let's see it.
His most played champion in his career, 87-46 record on this pick. So not only has he played a lot, he wins on it a lot, and it looks like Viper's going to answer with another safe AD carry in the Corki. Looks like they're just looking for a lot of AoE, a lot of team fighting, but JDG have so many tools to get on the backline that it will be very difficult for BLG to have those high damage dealers able to pump.
I think Corki's reasonably happy this game into Kai'Sa in a low-range comp. You feel good in the Galio. The Armor Shred's valuable too. As that Alistar that we already teased being picked up. Alistar also, I think, feels good in this game. It's going to Ambessa, Nocturne, Galio, very low-range comp. You have some value into Kai'Sa too. The Nautilus going to be picked up. This does help with the lane for Kai'Sa Nautilus into the Alistar Corki. Corki has some advantage in the Kai'Sa in the lane phase. Nautilus kind of helps offset that with his matchup in Nautilus, or in Alistar. Also gives you a way to guaranteed hunt Wukong, hunt Aurora with the depth charge. And look, pound for pound, I like the draft that JDG built much better here. I think the ability to hunt Rumble in the side lane, incredibly valuable with the Nocturne. The ability to turn off the whites and hunt with Ambessa Galio, very real. Kai'Sa can follow up on that too. Create a lot of chaos that BLG, I think, might have issue dealing with. Aurora and Rumble both have ways to play out of the side lane between the between worlds, and also just equalizing waves where you at least kill the wave and then have to play your way out. But I think that if Kai'Sa gets big, Kai'Sa can 1v9 this game. I don't think that Wukong or Alistar has enough CC to really lock down this Kai'Sa. And I've seen too many games in the LPL where Gala's Kai'Sa is taken over, and it feels like he has all the meatballs around him to really set up for that Kai'Sa to be big and take over this game.
Yeah, a lot of times when we do these shows, we try to establish and figure out what the win condition, what the style of the composition is going to be for a given team. Don't really have many questions about what that is for JDG. They are going all dive, all in, all gas, no breaks. BLG going to have to try to combat that. They definitely can't say that they didn't understand the comp that was going up against. They know exactly what's coming, and they have to try and weather that storm to even up this series at 1-1. Was JDG able to control a lot of that macro game to that first victory of this series? And we'll see if they're able to continue that success here. Game number 2 starts right now.
A bit louder for game 2, Grapes, as I think the fans
there.
are funneling into the arena and the excitement underway. Again, a rather close game 1 bout. I think BLG might take inventory on where they value Soul for the rest of this series, especially if the Hex Deck Soul comes up again as we go off that game 1.
You know, we don't get the behind-the-scenes comms from the coaches until the big documentary every split. I have a feeling I know what was said between game 1 and 2 for BLG. Focusing the Dragons, I would imagine, is a bit of a higher priority here for this point moving forward. But as we have some time to start this off and we're focused in on the bottom lanes, I want to talk about Viper for just a little bit as well. One of the new additions to this BLG roster. Definitely a bit of a slower start compared to our expectations on this new team. This is, of course, entering today in the playoffs, but he's been looking a lot better and able to perform very well in the postseason so far, and he's going to have to continue that level of play if they want to help BLG make it to that grand final.
Yeah, I do think that, you know, going into this season, I wasn't really expecting On to be the better half of this bot lane, and credit to On. I say this in full compliments to him and not to take away from Viper, but I think that On has really leveled up his play this split versus what I saw at On last year, which has been a big positive for BLG, because I think that when BLG is at their best, it has been when On is able to compete with supports across the globe, and I think that that is where this iteration of BLG has fallen short historically, is, and it's not just versus Keria, you know, it's other supports as well. Is Gala not able to get that 3-wave base? Would have been nice to pick up a Cole there, but canceled by On and BLG. We'll see if that health that On took could be punished here.
Now, HongQ taking a lot of damage now. Dinging level 4 just the right time. Justice Punch does land. And
Nice
Oscar
dead.
Knight to take a tower shot. He's going to flash for the wall with JunJia here. He's going to flash, follow, and teleport back to safety. Knight getting a base, but it's going to cost him a lot of resources.
Yeah, he was and I mean, Knight escapes. I like the setup, though, from JDG. I'm curious if JunJia and HongQ can take over the game from here, because, again, JDG as a team, we've talked about this a lot. We feel like they are at their best when this LCP duo can be the LCP duo in the LPL that they have been, that had the international success, which is really getting priority, impacting the map, playing fast out of mid-jungle to really help the side lanes for JDG. That has been the identity that they've somewhat built up here. Even through Fearless Draft, it's been really consistent seeing HongQ play champs that can impact the map and do so well. And now having a bit of priority into that Aurora. No summoner spells mid. Really easy to rinse and repeat ganks for JunJia with a Galio in the lane. Would love to see JDG pay more attention towards Knight.
Player that got pretty far ahead in the early game against HongQ in game number 1, despite them losing that first matchup. We talked about how HongQ has, owned Knight so far in their limited experience against each other. He continues to increase his lead in terms of win rate career as a mid laner against Knight, who has played against, again, so many players throughout his career. But it has not been necessarily Knight playing bad, specifically here in the early game. He's had pretty decent moments all year against HongQ.
Nice Kai'Sa passive proc found there. As this lane, the bases might have been canceled, but you gotta believe that this slow push stacking up for JDG, that will be the Kai'Sa early base, and then we have to start thinking about this first dragon spawning, as Vampire is going to do his best to get this wave in, secure the base for Gala. First bot reset in favor of JDG does mean they're going to be first back to lane. Look at where the Nocturne is right now. Dragon spawning in 10 seconds. With Kai'Sa getting back here first, gotta believe that when she gets to the wave, might be an angle where JunJia could look for that dragon. That said, that could be the case. Gonna hit the B. And that first dragon, not gonna be taken too early here by either team.
You see Shin thinking about it, but it looks like he's thinking more about a play onto HongQ in the mid lane. This Galio has no flash. He is way too far forward in the mid lane. And they're gonna give first blood over to Knight. BLG on the board first.
Really good walk from On. I was focused on the ADs and who gets back to that bot lane first. On was the one, was able to sneak back first. Keep in mind it was Vampire escorting the wave in against Viper. On snuck back to base first, goes to mid where we talked about the lack of summoner spells being there. Impacts that matchup before the bot lane or the jungle of JDG can. That's really well played by On and BLG to secure Knight that time, and that side could be answered bot.
Ooh, Viper at the flash, and Valk still gonna get hit by the dredge line of Vampire. Ton of summoner spells being burned in the bot lane by Bilibili. As the level 6 crab, not level 6 clinching for JunJia, but still putting him in a better position as he pushes Shun back.
Actually, kind of surprised it wasn't 6 clinching for JunJia.
Oh, not there yet either.
I am curious if he missed any big creeps, because it should have been. You can see his experience bar is just a sliver away from 6. So wondering if he dropped a Raptor instead of a Krug on his first clear. Could have been the case. That's a big difference maker, though, because now that one sliver of XP, he would love to have the access and ability to paranoia here against Shun, who isn't 6 himself, but that does make this dragon a bit riskier.
Oh, yeah, look at our observers
missing
out on these 2 Krugs.
It was 2 Krugs. We called it, baby.
Wow.
That's what happens when you have a jungle account, going on for this season. That's a big mistake, though. That's really slowed down this dragon for JunJia, because keep in mind, if it's 6 versus 5, you kind of, whenever, like, Wukong enters river, you're just able to rip the dragon. And so I think that second Krug, or those 2 Krugs not being taken, the baby Krugs, does stop this first dragon from going over to JDG on time. And so a bit of an oopsie there from JunJia.
Let this be a lesson to us all. Remember the little ones. No matter how important, how successful you are, the little ones who get you to where you are today.
Yeah.
For JunJia, that would have gotten him level 6, and that takes away a dragon.
You didn't learn this from Punch the Monkey?
Oh,
all right. The flash is
talking about Punch
bot.
the Monkey as Gala just faced first in ults into Under Tower. That's the LPL. That's this LPL English broadcast for you right here.
If you're Gala, 2 summoner spells for 1, and that's glass half full. And then if you're BLG, it's like we just traded Alistar Flash and Corky Barrier for Kai'Sa Flash. That's worth 2.
So which one is actually worth? Is it?
It depends on who's coping
neutral?
the hardest between both teams. You're in game, everything has to be positive. It's fine.
Right.
Game's still winnable. So focus away from the first Drake onto the early Grubs. We did have Vampire make his way up here to try and get a little bit of control over the Grubs. That said, looks like he's going to hit B. And the focus for JDG is still going to be on the bot side. And frankly, I think the Dragon stacking for me with this squad makes sense. They have the advantage with the Nautilus versus the Alistar in this bot lane. Gala does have a slight early lead. Gala is coming off of another reset. I think that this is the timer where JDG is going to look to secure the Drake. The question for me is, do we see a Paranoia cast in either lane before we try and have this Drake fight?
Or do you use it to try to dissuade anybody from BLG going forward into a potential dragon fight? A lot of risk-reward that they're going to have to navigate here over these next few minutes. It looks like actually no dragon is going to be focused down by JDG as JunJia is pathing top lane, pinging towards the topside river and the Grub. So maybe that's where they have their eyes on. Instead, it means that Shun's actually going to get a chance to start this.
So, again, from the JDG perspective, the Galio, Nocturne, and Bessa, you can really attack side lanes with this trio. As JunJia going to set his sights on the Bin here. Has gotten around the wards so far. Bin does have Flash.
Yeah, he's in really good position heat-wise as well. Would be able to almost take down Xiaoxu single-handedly if things go well. There goes both ultimates, Public Institution and the Paranoia. Fear still lands on the Bin despite the Flash. The Equalizer's going to come out. Bin not going to be in a great position here. He's at 300 HP, pops the Scrap Shield, and will be able to survive.
Bin played this perfectly. I really like what JDG tried because they throw out the public execution early to try and get the tether to connect, to chain the CC, but he flashed away, put it out beautifully. Now the bot dive, Gala's flashless, they do rip it.
Hook still lands onto Viper. He's going to have to Valk away. They know that HongQ has the ability to use that hero's entrance and make it a 3-on-3, so they instead will back away. Knight postures towards Xiaoxu, but ends up backing off. And at the end of the day, no kills being burned.
Yeah, Knight got JunJia away from the grubs, so that's big, and it ends up being no kills, but it is a dragon killed for free by BLG. Let's take inventory, though, because here's the public execution. They're trying to chain the Fear, but he flashes away, so the Fear doesn't go through. Look at this Equalizer placement. So perfect. Just fight on the Equalizer now. He's going to dodge out of the Q2 from Anbessa as well, and with the steel caps secured for Bin, the double physical damage, he's able to survive all that, survives the gank. Great. Soak from Bin on the gank from the Nocturne. That's the first Paranoia cast for nothing in favor of JDG. As BLG get the Dragon, JDG get nothing.
And to think that maybe they could have used that for a Dragon instead is a little bit of a question mark here for JD Gaming. They are finally able to claim 2 grubs, but Shun will make sure it is not a clean sweep by dashing in and claiming the 3rd. Still a pretty even game state at this point, but you got to mention BLG controlling the neutral objectives at this point, and that is going to be a big win for their competition. As we see Viper valking forward onto an exhausted Gala as well. Rocket nearly taking him down, but they do not have enough juice just yet. Just going to crash this wave in, get them back into a lead down there in the bottom lane.
Barrier used, but not the killer instinct. On did step forward enough to actually cancel Gala's base. Kind of curious if he decides to play for the cannon now, as yeah, that's a lot of XP to leave on the table, so Gala going to be able to sneak on in there, pick all that up for himself. That's A-okay, as the lead is not lost by the JDG bot lane. But again, BLG as a whole, that 1k gold lead coming off the back of Bin soaking, and Knight having the kill and a bit of a lead into the Galio. Feels like JDG's comp just hasn't really gotten going yet. Hexploit completed on JunJia means more paranoias from him, and again, JDG, if any of their lanes can create a summoner spell discrepancy, I think that's where we could really see JunJia attack. So far, the only discrepancy is in the top lane, where Bin did burn the flash dodge out of the last gank. So could be a rinse and repeat here as he's clearing bot to top again.
But how confident are you that that's going to work after what happened last time? Now
Bin no flash, this next gank works. You can bring HongQ if you're willing to make sure it works too, you know. But probably not necessary.
We'll see how Bin sets the lane up to make sure he avoids those types of situations, as I feel like that's a large part of what Nocturne's going to be able to do. If you have a longer lane to run down, much easier to have that gank work successfully. Speaking of ganks, we have On showing face in the mid lane as well, but definitely one of those quieter games here by LPL standards, Covey. We've seen the chess moves, but no pieces have been captured just yet.
It's a good shout. I mean, I think it benefits a few different members, like Shun, kind of happy, only being down a wee bit to the Nocturne as the Wukong. He has the Trinity Force matched with a Hexploit that's really good as Wukong. That item is more expensive to secure than the majority of other starter items in the jungle. Sundered Sky and Hexploit. So the fact that he's able to match that timer is big. And I think some of the strategy behind this Wukong is, I think this season, you really need to pair Wukong with better lanes. If not, Wukong just isn't fast enough, which is why we've seen him kind of take a backseat to other junglers that can play faster on the map. In his role versus where Worlds last year, I mean, Wukong was the meta pick and very high presence. He has dipped down a bit, but I think this is a good setup for Wukong in this game for BLG, and in theory, I think BLG very happy with where they're at. Their one-item fight, once Bin completes this Leandries, should be pretty killer in the JDG if they're able to, find the Alistar Wombo into the Equalizer or the Wukong Cyclone into the Equalizer and set things up.
Well, return to the top lane. Another public execution lands here on to Bin. As you mentioned, there's no flash, so a little bit less of a chance for the Rumble this time around. JDG finally get what they were looking for.
Yeah, we saw JunJia up there looking for the play. He actually based, bought the socks, and walked back a little bit faster to make sure he found Bin on that timer, as Bin burned Equalizer on a wave to get out of the first Nocturne timer. Couldn't get out of the second one with no flash either, so a lot of focus put in to get that first kill onto Xiaoxu versus Bin, but again, I think that was the play for JunJia. That was the only member missing flash, and that was a freebie. So they are able to kill Bin while his flash is down, and JDG gets on the board.
That play on the top side, though, means that BLG have first answer bottom, and it will mean that Shun can start this Mountain Dragon up again. Gala has a wave shoved underneath his tower, so it will be a delayed answer, if any, for JDG Gaming, and it looks like they instead will opt to give this one away. So a 2-dragon lead opened up for Bilibili Gaming. We'll see what soul it is, because that could have significant ramifications on how the rest of this game will go. It's an ocean, so maybe able to survive a little bit more of that burst.
Maybe not that soul. Maybe not that soul having significant ramifications than the rest of the game. That's kind of a bad draw, honestly, for BLG, as they're not up against a lot of poke, and that's not going to be a very valuable soul to them. So that said, still some good work put down by BLG. They did get the first 2 dragons. I think ripping it on that timer was smart. You can see JunJia, he has access to Paranoia now. Did not have access to Paranoia for that fight, so no JDG not wanting to opt into a fight where they're down tools. Reasonably so. Gets BLG the objective. Now, Herald is up, and both teams have all tools, as JDG and BLG have both put their bot lanes mid, as both teams look to posture around this neutral objective.
You know, we say that JDG has the all-in composition, but at this point in the game, one item, right, 15 minutes in, are they strong enough to just go for a full 5v5 and win if everything goes right?
I'm going to say it's execution-based. I think that a fight now would be pretty close. Ideally, if you're BLG, I think you'd really like to get Leandres onto Bin, who doesn't quite have that first item secured. But I think for BLG, Knight is a bit bigger in his role right now. Bin, if he gets to Leandres, would be a bit bigger in his role right now for a team fight. And then I'd probably favor the rest to JDG, with Nocturne, Kaisa being stronger in the roles. But that means it's a close one, so it kind of comes down to setup and maybe on finding stuff like that. Gala able to slink out, does have that evolved E from the looks of things, was able to get out of that.
There's another wave shoved underneath his turret. Xiaoxu trying to allow for this tower to go down. Gonna get some help from JunJia again. Bin flashes this time, but won't be able to get away from that public execution. JunJia on the board again. That's first tower over to JD Gaming. A teleport is going to come in from Knight to cut JunJia off. Will be a casualty of the enemy jungler, and we'll see what that means in terms of ramifications for Herald.
Ooh. Knight able to pick that one up for himself, too. That's nice. They'd rather have the gold on the Aurora than the Wukong. So a bit burned from Knight to make sure that that money went into his pockets, but is secured. That said, JDG, they're still the ones that are ahead on the play. It's BLG answering a top play, whereas HongQ dirty farming a wave and taking plates in the bot lane. This will mean the Rift Herald goes over to BLG. But it is gold now in the pockets of the Galio, and he does have the tools to try and answer.
It's a 3v4, but remember that they always have a Galio in their back pocket. They opt instead just to pick up plates, because that's effectively all that a Herald is, and so Shun is going to be able to grab that one for themselves. BLG still doing a good job controlling these neutrals.
Now, hey there, Grapes. Don't disrespect the combat power of the Shelly. It's worth a little bit more than
my new
points
favorite
these
part
days.
of this game.
It has been. That said, I think JDG making the right call, again, to make sure that HongQ picks up his tower for himself. So, honestly, a lot of gold given over to the Galio. I know Knight has another kill to his name, but the gold's still even between the mid laners. As Bin was overheated, wasn't able to throw down abilities immediately, and then JunJia just answering the flash of Bin, takes him down, did put him on the wrong side. As
Deja vu, we're right back up here, but this time it's not Bin being focused down. It's Knight and Shun who had that Paranoia used against them. Ultimate's traded by the junglers. I'll see the Between Worlds currently on cooldown.
And the flash. Knight burned flash in that play, too, from the looks of things. So, Shun able to at least hover, be up there to prevent the kill, but still spell advantage secured by JDG in that skirmish.
Oh, no flash. That's a sign for Xiaoxu to now go in. Knight was invisible for a little bit, but will have to eventually show himself and go down to Xiaoxu, as the top side has been all JDG here in game 2.
And again, the identity for JDG, like I see at Nocturne, Mbessa, Galio, we talked about attacking the side laners. That really has been the forte for JDG so far in this game. They've been able to take down Bin twice, Knight once, but will that mean anything for the Dragon coming up? Because the Soul Point, I know we said Ocean Soul, not quite as valuable this game, not exactly the Soul that BLG was looking to draw with that 2-Dragon advantage, but it is a Soul nonetheless. And we'll see if JDG is able to get in here and disrupt the Dragon stacking of BLG, who do have control over the bot side of the river right now.
1,500 gold lead here for JDG. All of that currently in the hands of Xiaoxu. Can't discount the help that he's gotten by his team. It's been a lot, but this is the kind of play that
was the game plan.
Potentially propel this guy to a household name in the LPL. If he's able to execute now in these team fights, that with the lead that he was given, something that Bin is not able to do very well in game number 1.
HongQ was spotted on the way in. I'm not sure if he knows or not. It looks like he does. But BLG kind of stuck here. About
to break out in the Herald. Goes on. They immediately knock up Vampire and they take him down. In goes the Paranoia here, but it's JunJia on a one-way trip and he wins yet another Smite fight. He is non-stop on fire with these 50-50s.
Dragon stacking stopped. It's going to be 2 kills at least going over to BLG. They're ripping towards the Baron. They had Shelly mid. I thought they would have sieged this turret to take some plates, but no. 5v3, every tool up for BLG outside the Cyclone. Baron is being hit.
Killer Instinct still available, is the public execution as well. HongQ almost has that hero's entrance up, but this Baron is melting to all 5 members of BLG. JDG still want to fight. Whoa. In goes Xiaoxu, finds the public execution on the Viper, but he's now in a 1v3 in the back of the pit. Hero's entrance comes out. HongQ's able to knock up 3, but will the damage be enough? Baron secured by Bilibili, but the health bars are ticking, and Gala's in the back line. Killer Instinct finds a double kill, and he's still weaving his way around. Knight able to eventually take him down with the weirding, but JDG saving the play, able to get 3 kills at the price of the Baron.
2 Barons out on the solo lanes of BLG. The gold is even. The Dragon stacking was denied as a crazy fight, frankly, ripped from JDG. BLG, I need a replay because I was really focused on Gala getting in the back of the pit. He got so much work done. First off, we're going to watch Vampire get stymied by Shelly. Is on, the cow hops into the Herald, and that Nautilus hops twice as the double knockup makes sure that he falls between Shelly and the Cyclone. JunJia just able to really perfectly time the smite. Really well timed, just not hit by Shun. And now, the flip side, I mean, this fight, Xiaoxu going in when he did was a little bit surprised. I didn't think the Vampire was close enough on the follow-up slash. I kind of thought that they would wait for that. That said, Gala does a really nice job of picking his spot in the fight. Yes, he's exhausted, but he gets in the back line, finds Viper, finds Shun, combos well, nearly got Bin, and sidesteps his way the best he can around Knight, really outside the E, which kind of used all of his tools to juke what he saw already. So I think Gala deserves some flowers for how he played out that fight, down numbers, nearly taking 3 with him. As 2 members get out with the Baron, you can see the siege starts for BLG as that top outer turret will fall for Bin.
So the Baron buff still in the hands of 2 members of Bilibili Gaming, but definitely not as much as they would have liked off of that play. Bin does get that first tower, but the power play hovering around neutral at this point, and you have to imagine that's where it's going to stand with the amount of, ability for JDG to contest at this point. So Bilibili, certainly their toughest battle so far in the playoffs this series, coming against JDG. The good thing, though, is that Knight is also pretty fed. 5-1-1 on this Aurora, working towards that Void Staff. He did a ton of damage in that team fight, despite it not necessarily going their way.
He did. It helps when they stacked up on top of Knight. He is big on this Aurora. I'm focused right now on Gala. I do think that JDG drafted a comp that is a wee bit lacking in damage. That said, Kaisa can really make up for it, and Gala's not... Oh, hold on.
Oh, in goes Xiaoxu, right into the middle of 4, but it's a beautiful delivery system for HongQ, and Viper is taken down. 1-0 in favor of JDG, and the paranoia has gone in on tonight. He goes between worlds to try to escape the likes of JunJia, and Vampires also died. HongQ ticking low, has to use the Justice Punch to get away, and Knight is still alive, hunting with those Qs, unable to find anything else, just a 1-for-1, but AD carry for support benefits JDG.
Yeah, JDG, honestly, the fact that it was only a 1-for-1 off that engage, wee bit surprised about, because that engage looked really good for JDG. I just don't think that Gala was able to quite find the same spot that he was able to find in the Baron fight. But Xiaoxu, I didn't see that engage happening, Grapes. We were prepping for other stuff. Xiaoxu.
I mean, very easy chance very easy to hit it, because there's 4 people there.
I mean, he rips it. I'm used to seeing depth charge, you know, set up and Besta, but it's the public execution this time around setting up the Nautilus as he connects with everything onto Viper. Rest of the fight's a little bit split. JunJia decided to go on the Knight. Xiaoxu was low. Gala couldn't really follow up on that because Bin and Shun were holding the choke into the inner turret there. So I think JDG, maybe JunJia overplaying his hand in the back half of the fight, a little bit going for Knight, but hey, he did get the Between Worlds out only on the Nocturne, and that could be an interaction we could look out for later on. So I think if JunJia decides to select Knight as his target in these later fights, it definitely is to make sure that the Between Worlds is not being used for the fight, because that is Aurora's way out of the combo.
Yeah, if it's 1 person instead of 5, that's a win for JDG, so perhaps a strategy that JunJia can elect to take. Soul Point for Bilibili available now as the Dragon has just spawned, and they have full control of vision in the pit, but that's not going to stop JDG from trying to get in here. JunJia's won these Smite fights before. Will it happen yet another time? Control ward here in the bottom side. JDG having to poke and prod their way into the pit. Dragon already at 1,000. In he goes again! This is ridiculous at this point. JunJia's the Smite God, but will they win the fight? Taunt is going to connect onto a lot of members, but Knight's still going to go between worlds. It's a double kill for Viper, looking for a third, and they get the Dragon, but JDG are going to lose this fight handily. 4 kills in the favor of Bilibili.
Gala couldn't play the fight. The tools of BLG are keeping Gala and the rest of JDG out to the best of their abilities. Again, gonna need another look at that one, because I was kind of focused on JunJia going in. He's landed all the smites, but they haven't been able to find the winning combos, and they go in on Viper again this time around, but Viper was able to kite to his team and get out.
Yeah, I mean, the AD carry with the better position has won these last couple of fights. It was Gala around the Baron this time. It was definitely Viper. He had a very easy pickings, but hey, gotta credit JunJia. He's on one today. He's on a bit of a heater.
I mean, Shun cast
that was a bad smite, actually.
200 damage early. That's a lot. But again, Gala, like, on flashed at Gala. Bin dropped the equalizer, the Seekers. Gala couldn't Killer Instinct to impact the back half of the fight or impact Viper. So him being stuck, him being stymied in the fight turns the rest of it in favor of BOG as the equalizer, and especially the Between Worlds. The Between Worlds was very big in that fight from Knight, as JDG did pile on to BOG with this dive. So I think a pretty significant gold lead for BLG, and again, this soul, I will say a 4 Ocean Dragon soul is rather impactful, but we are seeing how explosive these fights are. Ocean Soul has impacted games where, you know, a Carmen Ezreal exists, where there's a lot of poking and prodding, and you can kind of retreat, lean back on the sustain that Ocean Dragons and Ocean Soul can give you. That's not the game that we're in with these two drafts. It is dog pile on dog pile.
Looks like it's BLG trying to pile on to Vampire right now. Takes a big chunk of damage. Baron is available, and with BLG having that 4,500 gold lead, still having pressure and priority wherever they want to on the map. The vision game certainly has been working out in favor of them as we have approached the late game of this second matchup, but has not stopped JDG from getting into the pits and you know, stealing a lot of these objectives away.
Yeah, I mean, coming into the series, I was not expecting the matchup between Shun and JunJia to be this heavily in favor of JunJia but throughout the first 2 games, but that is the world we're living in at the moment. I know it's not showing on the scoreboard for JunJia, but I like the approach out of the game. I also, I mean, he's hit all the smites. He stole away the Elder, he's stolen away 2 dragons in this one, and
Another public execution.
Whoa.
Xiaoxu going to pull the trigger. It is on to Knight, but the paranoia is going to come forward as well. Between World only onto 1, but it takes the enemy jungler down. 1 for nothing, soon to be 2, as Xiaoxu goes down. JDG went too far forward, and BLG this time are there to punish.
Again, I just don't think that Gala can interact with these fights. And everything being sent on the Knight, yes, the Between Worlds, it's to get Knight out and to only hit the Nocturne, but if your AD carry can't play in a game where we did set up that the damage is a little bit lacking from JDG, pretty much Kai'Sa has to make up for the lack of damage in other roles. I think that taking fights where Gala can't really play it out, A, not great, B, I don't really love Gala's build this game. I'm a little bit surprised that I don't see a Dusk and Dawn or a Nashor's Tooth. We committed to the full AD Kai'Sa, and I think we're missing out on a little bit of the max damage that we need. As again, I mean,
triggers so quick.
Yeah, it's a quick trigger pull, but look at Gala. He spent the fight hitting Wukong Clone, and that was it. And then Unbreakable Alistar. So if our AD carries, if that's the fight for our AD carry, who needs to carry the damage load for our team, probably not the right fight for us to take as a team there, Grapes.
Yeah, like he could ult into the back line, but he probably would just get one shot, given that there's a lot of tools able to dish out damage onto him in that capacity. So BLG able to pick up their second Baron of the game. See how much they can get off of it this time that they didn't lose 3 members immediately after taking that big purple worm. Still in their hands for 2 more minutes. We're going to push mid and bot lane simultaneously with the inhibitor tower is going to be the target.
Looks like Viper might be shouting out old teammate of his, Chovy, as that quirky build. Bit different. I can understand picking up more health against the comp that BLG is playing into, but double black cleaver, I don't know if that's super efficient. Also GA an option. So far though, has helped Viper live in the last couple skirmishes, and he has been the much more impactful AD in these fights, as we just highlighted Gala not being able to get into the last fight.
JDG playing split map a little bit here. Xiaoxu's going to take this tier 2. Now looking for Knight as well, but Shun has joined at just the right moment. Public execution alongside the paranoia. Nearly able to take Knight down. JunJia still following up with the fear. Gets a big shutdown, but will cost him his life. It's a 2-for-1 in favor of BLG, but maybe more. HongQ uses the Justice Punch directly over the equalizer and then says, nah, screw this. I'm going to ulti out instead. Gets onto Vampire and will be allowed to escape.
This dragon is for sure going the way of BLG. JDG giving it up to lay another trap on the top side. We'll see if they can find Bin.
See how aggressive Bin wants to be. It's going to be Gala to clear the way for now. Still 2 members in the bush. HongQ may be showing a bit prematurely. It just means that Bin will back away. Soul Point finally in the hands of Shun. Unless he somehow screws up this smite, but I don't think it's possible.
Yeah, no JunJia to smite this one away as he went down. Really good predict from Xiaoxu to find Knight.
1 HP. 1 HP. It didn't matter, but we all saw that shit. That dragon was at 1 health for about half a second.
You are like the teammate in solo queue, where it's like my
Observers.
teammate cannot play.
Roll the replay. We need to see that. We need to see that again.
Smite this man immediately. If we can't smite, we must smite the player. Oh. Well,
Shin's been impactful in the fights at the very least, and able to get these 3 dragons.
He has. He's been monkeying around in the fights and monkeying around the objectives. I feel like that actually is pretty apt to both scenarios. The same descriptor. Look at me Englishing.
Yeah, that's the buffalo, right? Where the words mean different things when you say them back to back. Exactly what's happening here. It's been a multifaceted win so far for BLG. Shun able to control these fights, this time getting to Soul Point as well. Baron buff no longer available for them, but they still have a big wave on the top side. A big rocket lands onto Gala, and he's forced to pop that barrier and already be at a significantly reduced HP pool. JunJia and Shun fighting it out right now. Both their Congers already been procced, but the poke damage from the side of JDG is starting to hold true. In goes the depth charge. Will they set up a public execution? They find the likes of Viper, but he valks away from the hero's entrance and is still alive. Vampire's down, and Knight just runs the other side of the fight. It's a double kill already for the Aurora, and one last ditch effort from JDG was not enough. It's a clean ace, a triple kill for the superstar mid laner of Bilibili, as they'll even up the series at 1-1.
I mean, every fight, it just felt like Gala either couldn't get in, or when he did get in, he was walking into a meat grinder. And this is AD Kaisa. I think that it's a game where he tried to auto a lot, wasn't able to auto enough, and BLG able to keep Gala out, find the win for themselves as they even up the series.
12-2-7 for Knight on the Aurora, as he gets a little bit of a clapback on the HongQ and JDG. Our best of 5 has turned into a best of 3 as BLG answer in all the right ways. This was a fun game to watch and just a good way for BLG to show that they still are able to run the Rift and look like that dominant team. Other than those few objective smites, they really had a better control of all sorts of monsters and epic monsters, and everything here in this one.
Yeah, and I think that Bin definitely deserves some credit. Like, think of how many resources were put into getting that first kill onto Bin. It was 3 visits from JunJia. It was the first one where Bin was able to turn around the 1v2 and walk out. The second one where JunJia was hovering and then he equalized the wave, and then both him and Bin and JunJia based. And then JunJia actually skipped over his bot camps, walked straight back up to find that timer to get the first kill on the Rumble. But he was still down flash. But while all that was going on, it did really feel like BLG, they were able to control the Dragons. They were able to turn around that mid lane matchup with the help of Knight. They caught HongQ out in the lane phase with a really good walk from On. And they kind of used that to shift power elsewhere. And as Knight picked up a lot of gold, well, there was a lot of effort being used to keep those Between Worlds out of the team fights. But when the Between Worlds did hit in the team fights, yeah, Knight's Aurora stacked up the 12-2-7 scoreline for a reason.
Showing why. He's basically our perennial first-team mid laner here in Group Ascend.
I think he's the MVP. I think he's the MVP of this game, too.
I think so. I mean, normally we like to find the unique pick that's not necessarily the most kills, the most damage, but I think he did a lot more than just, dishing out the damage here in this one, too.
It was a boom boom damage award for Knight, I think, in this one. And I think for JDG, again, the engages that they had or that they were attempting, like, you could see they were finding the right members, but the firepower wasn't there. And a lot of that was just behind. I think some of it was the fights they were taking where Gala couldn't join, like the fight around the top side of mid where Xiaoxu went in and we saw Gala only hit the clone or the unbreakable Alistar. I think that's more of a JDG thing, like, hey, maybe we shouldn't take this fight if Gala can't get in. But some of the others was straight up BLG, Knight, and the rest of the team outplaying Gala, just making sure that he couldn't have a safe fight on his Kaisa that is such a signature pick for him throughout his career, the one that, Gala's really made his money on throughout. So, yeah, Gala, I mean, again, in this draft, we were expecting the Kaisa to really bring the damage that some of JDG's comp would be missing later on, just with Nocturne and Galio being lower damage profile, especially as the game carries on. And you don't see that in the damage chart. Gala wasn't able to really fill that role for the team. And that was a big difference.
You wonder what causes those sorts of things. It seems like JDG's composition very much inclined to be dive friendly, but maybe sometimes there's too much of a good thing, right? If you have all the same ingredient in the pot, maybe it doesn't create the best recipe. And looks like we saw situations where a lot of the dive was used here for Xiaoxu and JunJia, but as they go forward, it leaves Gala without really any protection to dish out any damage in his own right, and that means that he ends up being less valuable.
As much credit as I'm going to give JunJia too for some of the smites, I think that we also need to bring up the fact that first dragon, that should be in the game script of JDG, and having a Nocturne and having a Galio, the 2 baby Krugs that he disrespected, it was level 5 to level 5 after the 3rd crab was secured. And that was a big difference maker in making sure that BLG did pick up that very first dragon of the game. I think that in the script, when you're taking Kaisa Nautilus into Corki Alistar, I do think Nautilus flips that matchup. And if you're able to help Galio / the ability for Galio to interact with that fight, I'm a little bit surprised the first dragon didn't go the way of JDG, and that was definitely an oopsie from JunJia. But yeah, I mean, this fight on our screen right now is really the one fight where it felt like Gala was able to have that big impact. And outside of that, we didn't see the Kaisa have the impact that was needed in this game for JDG.
Yeah, this is maybe the tool, the one glimpse inside what the composition could have fully looked like, but for a number of situations never really came to fruition. Ooh, didn't realize there how low Viper got. He ended up stalling out a lot of time. And then this fight, a little bit disjointed, but ends up working decently well here for JDG. And then this Dragon ends up being taken, but then BLG ends up winning the fight afterwards, and this really was able to blow open the gold lead.
Yeah, I mean, again, like this fight from Gala perspective, he's only hitting Unbreakable Alistar, and Bin does just a great job of buying time. I think the Zanyos is really well placed on cancel the Killer Instinct there too. I'm not sure if that was on purpose, but very well played from him. This was the fight we talked about where Gala couldn't hit. He's only going to hit the clone of the Unbreakable Alistar here. Can't get in range of his team as BLG I think the lens that I'm looking at this through the Gala lens and through the JDG lens, and maybe Kaisa can't interact. BLG definitely deserve credit for how they kited back and played as a team to really make it hard for Gala to pick his spots as well. As you can see it in all these fights, Gala has to deal with the Unbreakable Alistar, has to deal with the Rumble. That time around, just walks into a combo from on, gets one tapped, and there's no chance of a fight win from JDG if that is what happens to your marksman at the start. So BLG deserves some credit. I really like how On played that game out on his Alistar. I think Bin had a really nice game too. Even if it is a night MVP for the Boom Boom Damage War that's pretty done and dusted here.
That's the problem with having a one-dimensional composition like JDG did. You might know exactly what to do to win the game, but your opponent also knows exactly what you need to do to win the game. And so BLG able to kite out nicely, play these fights to a T, especially in the late game, to take this second game. Player of the game going over tonight. 95% kill participation as well, along with multiple kills, multiple triple kills, double kills, and all the like. That's his 8th MVP of split number 1.
Had a lot of pages in that book, Crepes. That's not represented on this graphic, but the book was built, and the bunny did boom boom damage. So, even series, gotta say, we expected a close one coming into the night. So far, it's delivered, and hopefully we can get some more good games out of us.
Absolutely. BLG proving that it was just a fluke, at least, that game number 1. They are here to play. They're here to control objectives as well, do everything right to get themselves a spot at first stand. Heading to game number 3, as now 2 more games are required for that first international of 2026. We'll be back here on LPL English after this short break.